Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And we should note that the Board of Trustees is meeting virtually tonight under exceptions to the Open Meetings Act on the basis of Governor Pritzker's executive orders concerning the COVID emergency, and my determination as village president that it is not practical or prudent to meet in person at this time. Accordingly, this meeting is being conducted virtually with board members participating through the Zoom platform. One or more village officials are present in Village Hall during this meeting as required by the Open Meetings Act. Public comment may be emailed to the village at the web address shown in the agenda. So with having said all that, may we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clayton.
Here.
Trustee Dickon.
Here.
Trustee Eastman. Absent. Trustee Haber.
Here.
Trustee Hollander.
Here.
Trustee Jamerson.
Here.
President Ford.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, first order of business is the approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So move.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay, are there any comments or questions? Discussion? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, a roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Dickon.
Aye.
Trustee Eastman. Absent. Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is the approval of bills. Do I hear a motion for approval of the bills?
So move.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none and seeing none. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Clayton.
Aye.
Trustee Dickon.
Aye.
Trustee Eastman. Absent. Trustee Haber.
Aye.
Trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Chris, before you move on, just
Yes.
a quick comment on the council report. All the budgeted numbers are incorrect because we had some trouble with assist and getting them into this report. So just please ignore the budget numbers on this report. Thanks.
will do. Thank you for that. Next item of business, the Treasurer and Finance Committee report, please.
I just did it.
Excellent. Happy to have that report. I do want to mention that some time ago, we had talked about having our representative from JP Morgan come in and give us a review, an annual review of our investments. So Trustee Clayton, could I ask you to please follow up on that and see maybe the second meeting in February might be a good time for us to hear from JP Morgan.
Okay, I guess I do have one other thing to say. We should have the end of the year statements and quarterly report in the next couple days, and I will circulate that and for comments and questions.
Okay. All right, thank you. The Director of Community Services happens to be a mayor of another municipality, and when we have Monday holidays, their meeting is moved, and so he is being mayor someplace else. But I think what he would have reported on, we do have on the agenda under new business, and that would be the fee schedule. Are there any questions any of the trustees would like me to relay to the director? Trustee Clayton?
Just a couple things. Do we have a new Korean restaurant going into Colonial Court? I drove past that the other day, and it looks like there was a restaurant moving in. And also, I was curious as to what the status of the gaming establishment is.
Well, I can tell you that we did have an Indian restaurant come to us, and that could be the group you're thinking of.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. Indian, yes.
Okay, yes. And that's good that they're coming along. We have not had the gaming people pull permits yet. So I don't know what the situation is there, but we haven't seen the permit requests. I'll follow up on that for you though. But Poached Egg is open and doing well. Okay, moving on, the consultants report. If we could start with our attorney's report, please.
We received a petition from the owner of the 37 acres to annex into Riverwoods last week. And the petition is a petition that is conditional on having an annexation agreement. So that means that we would negotiate the terms in which the property would be annexed to the village. Those terms would be put in an annexation agreement. There's a procedure under state law for how you conduct a hearing on a possible annexation agreement. Before you have that hearing, you also have to have any hearings that would be required for the zoning that you can promise to grant in the annexation agreement. So there's a series of steps to go forward with this. Obviously, the developer who's joined in with the application of the owner is looking for a distribution center. As you know, we've been talking back and forth. We thought for a while it had gone away. For a while, it seemed like it was going to Buffalo Grove. Eventually, they came and met with us and decided that they would like to pursue the opportunity with us. We thought that we would have much better chance at controlling what happens on the site if it's developed in Riverwoods rather than some other place. So both parties are at the initial stage of this journey. It involves some trust, some compromise, but also some hard negotiated points that each side is trying to achieve for itself. We're just at the very beginning of it. One of the first things we have to do, because they're looking for the rest of the site to be designated as a TIF district so that some of the extraordinary costs of developing on a landfill can be overcome. And on the agenda later tonight, you'll see a proposal from SB Friedman for conducting a TIF eligibility study. Since part of the site was already in the village, of the 37 acres, 8 acres, is already in the village and is already in a TIF district. And I suspect that the remaining 29 acres, which is really the subject of the annexation petition, I should be clear, there's not a lot of reason to suspect that it won't also be eligible because it's a former landfill and compromised site in that way. We, in our discussions going back months back and forth about what the issues are, I mean, we've identified the issues all at the outset as mitigating against excessive noise, light, traffic, sound, smell, all the things that we want to avoid. And we would be exploring with them landscaping, berms, screening walls, all those sorts of things to try and understand how to best deal with this. The facility that they're showing in the initial drawing that they gave to us is, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, about 326,000 square feet. That is larger than Woodman's Market, for example. So that's where we are with this. The Plan Commission's meeting in February, I haven't had a chance to talk with Lori about it, but in order to keep moving forward, my suggestion was that we devote a lot of that meeting to exploring the issues around distribution centers. As you can imagine, in the last 15 years or so, with the explosion of e-commerce and these kind of centers, there have been a lot of studies and other examples where people have tried to incorporate best management practices around them, tried to cite them in the best places, tried to work through these issues. The council that awards the LEED designation for buildings is developing a special LEED designation for warehouse and distribution or distribution and fulfillment centers. the logistics industry that's going around these is very sophisticated these days. It's very complex. So there are a lot of issues for us to understand. And I think the starting point would probably be to put some materials together for the Plan Commission. We have started looking at a zoning district that could accommodate this use. It would be a very special purpose type of district. We don't have another site like this anywhere in the village, so we basically would be customizing these provisions to deal with this particular user. That's the support to do that is, of course, further granted by the annexation process and having an annexation agreement in place. So there are zoning hearings, annexation hearings. There would be a need if the eligibility study concludes that the site is eligible for TIF, there would be a need to convene the Joint Review Board, and there would be negotiations over the terms of any kind of TIF redevelopment agreement. All of these various tracks would try to be done on a sort of a parallel basis as best we can, with as much input from the board and citizens as we can get by having a number of hearings and meetings to give everyone a chance to express themselves. So it's big news for the village because it would be quite a sizable undertaking. I don't have actual financial projections or anything like that, but just based on the budget that they initially shared with us, which of course is subject to change, the amount of real estate tax increment that could be generated on the site would be very substantial. I'm sure they would like to have a lot of that, but there may also be increment that the village can use in the other TIF districts that we have. This would be adjacent to those districts. That's sort of an overall summary. If anyone has any questions, we're at the beginning of the process. So if you have any observations or thoughts or direction beyond responding to this request and trying to gather as much data as we can and see if we can arrive at a satisfactory way of incorporating this into the village.
Are there any questions for the village attorney at this point? Okay, do you have anything else for us this evening? That isn't.
I think Pat can probably report better on Lexington because he had the meeting with them. And the Thornton's matter is on the agenda later tonight. So that's all for now for me.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The engineers report.
So on the Lexington development, we're meeting tomorrow afternoon with the design team, all the engineers, my office, the Lexington folks, as well as Lake County DOT. Of course, the site it has intertwined stormwater requirements, and I'm hopeful that at the end of that meeting, we'll have the information necessary so we can quantify what parts of the available storage can be held out for the various developments, and then that's going to advance the ball with discussions about the changes to the land plan and other things. But we really need to get our arms around the very, very fine points of the stormwater management. So I'm hopeful. I'm bringing together quite a group of stormwater minds. So I'm hopeful that by the time we're done with that meeting, we'll have some clarity. And then,
Trustee James, excuse me, Trustee Jamerson, did you have a question at this point?
I do, and I think Pat kind of thinly veiled it, but so part of that stormwater requirements is for the parcel itself, right? And part of it might be for the road construction. Is that true, Pat?
yeah, correct.
So has any commitment been made by the current property owner or the future property owner to give the county access to that stormwater detention area?
No, there's been no formal commitments because part of the reason being that the county cannot enter into any formal negotiations until the phase one study has been approved by IDOT, and they're still in the throes of finalizing that process. So I'd say right now, informally, everybody, all the parties agree that the goal is one, to provide the county's stormwater management needs, and two, try to do this all as one construction project. There's really, there could be 3 separate construction projects going on where Lexington does their thing, and then the county comes in and does their thing, and then the village, through some mechanism, does one more project to build the proposed connector road to Colonial Court. And of course, it seems to be a much better idea just to get this organized and do it all in one construction project. And that in itself is a fairly complex process, not the least reason being that the county is using federal funds for Deerfield Road. Anytime federal funding is involved, it has to go pretty high up the chain if you're doing anything other than conventional construction. So but at the bottom of it all, we just have to get clarity on what volumes each of these components needs, so we know how big this ultimate stormwater facility needs to be, so that we have a better understanding of where there may be some wiggle room in the current land plan, which on a number of occasions has been referred to as a bit barracks-like, and is there something we can do to open it up a bit?
So is it possible that there may not be enough space for all of the detention that's needed for the 2 projects?
That I think is improbable. What potentially could happen is that when you add together all of these volumes, Lexington is really only left with the part that they're currently proposing for their proposed development. So then you get into questions of, how many units, how densely can they develop it, and we'll have that discussion. But I'm pretty certain that there is enough room on this site to get, well, I know there's enough room to get all the stormwater volumes. The question is what's left over then for the Lexington development.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, would you like to continue, Pat, with your?
Just briefly, with regard to the water meter upgrades, HBK is still out doing upgrades. Next week, at the end of the month, we're down to there's about 35 customers where we'll have to coordinate manual reads because the 3G network is shut down and they haven't been upgraded yet, and we can no longer get the automated reads from them. So it's a manageable handful of customers. So we'll get that done to keep the billing on track. I have every expectation that, of those 30, 35, some folks will just, they'll either be out of the region for the winter, or they just won't let us in for the reads. We'll react to each of those as they come, but we are geared up to do the manual reads.
If I could just add, if you hear, we're getting a fair number of calls and emails about bills and so forth. So if you hear residents making comments, ask them to have some patience with the change in meters. We've had some difficulty with the system and so on. So patience is needed on the part of our residents. We will get through this. It will just take us some time. Trustee Dickon.
Yeah, can we add that as a news item on the website, just as an update for the residents?
I made mention of it in my letter to the public in the Village
Voice. Yeah, I was thinking more of a news item online.
That could be a very good idea. I hope it would be helpful, but people will still be concerned about that. One resident called in and he was complaining he didn't get a bill, and I told him he was lucky. So and I promised him we would not be turning his water Yes, that's a good idea. Let's keep that in mind, and that might be a good news item. Is there anything else for our village engineer?
That's all I have.
Okay, all right. Moving on, our ecologist isn't with us this evening. The Plan Commission, Chairman Brightcroft, do you have a report or comments at this point?
I only have comments because we didn't meet this month. The Plan Commission did not meet this month. And my comment relates to the proposed distribution center on the 37 acres. And that is, in addition to the issues of noise, light, traffic, and smells, I think that particulate matter or emissions also is a critical aspect that we need to look into. So I will be looking at that, looking for best practices regarding emissions also.
So noted. I know our village attorney has been doing a lot of research, and that I recall as being one item as well. Is there anything else? Are there any questions for the Plan Commission? Okay, hearing none and seeing none. The Zoning Board of Appeals, we have the chairman with us, but I don't think you met, did you?
No, we haven't met in quite a while, actually. So at this time, it's very peaceful.
Delighted.
Me
Delighted.
too.
Moving on, the police report, chief, please.
The police activity is in your packets. I did want to take a moment just to talk about the formatting, the new formatting. So up until now, I've been using a canned report. It's in our computer-aided dispatch software. And then I would have to convert it into Excel. Then I would have to do a lot of filtering and deleting and adding, and it was taking me a long time. So I talked to Deerfield, and we ended up creating a report that would query the system for me and put everything into Excel where I needed it. And in doing that, now it comes up alphabetically. It used to be those old 4-digit numbers that you see next to each incident type. It would filter by those, which are just uniform crime report codes that we don't even use anymore. And so now it's filtering alphabetically, which might be helpful to some. And then another thing about it is that I wanted to mention, if you go down to the bottom, under ordinance violations, those are things that we've been writing to go to our administrative hearing system. So the mayor's made some changes to that system, and it's going to be every other month if there's anything up for hearings. And we're going to limit some of the things, or limit what we are doing at the administrative hearings. So what we're not going to be doing anymore at the administrative hearings are vehicle-related violations that are usually not even our residents to begin with. And most of those have to do with expired registration and some no seatbelt, that sort of thing. Parking tickets, which we don't write that many of. So what that leaves us with on the police side is basically things like dog running at large, not having a leash, not cleaning up after your dog, noise ordinance violations. And those are things that we very rarely write tickets for, those types of violations, because we usually try to warn people and get them to just come into compliance if there's a problem. If I see somebody walking a dog without a leash, I'll just say, you have to have a leash, and hope, if they do it again, then maybe we write a ticket, but that's never really happened. So we're not writing that many ordinance violations. So based on that, I'm thinking about just taking that line for ordinance violations out of the report, because we have them in previous years, but we're really going to have very few, and some months none every year. So I really don't see a reason. It's going to be negligent. The amount of ordinance violations are going to be negligible. What is staying in admin court are more things that really why we went to admin court, and that was people who were not in compliance for things with trees or with buildings. That's the kind of thing where it was harder to get compliance from people by taking them to the Lake County Court, and those judges weren't always equipped, to understand what was going on with those, where the hearing violation officer that we use for our hearings is, familiar with those types of codes and can handle those. And he successfully, handled some for us in the past. So that's really the thing that's to be going to admin court now. And on months where there's supposed to be admin court, if there's nothing up, then we'll know several days before the hearing if there's anything up, and then we would just cancel the hearing officer and cancel the village prosecutor. So that's where we're at with the admin court. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions for the chief? Okay, any questions on the administrative court change? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the next item, and that's information comments from the president. Just a short, oh, I'm sorry, trustee Haber.
I just thought of something and I just wanted to ask.
Sure.
If we're going to have administrative hearings every other month, do we need to revisit the retention agreement with the prosecutor? I don't know whether it's paid. I don't recall off the top of my head whether it's paid on a monthly basis, regardless of whether there's a meeting, or whether it's only on a per meeting basis.
There shouldn't be any change to the relationship. The billing will be on a time basis. And so we did look into that to make sure that the cost would not be, we wouldn't be incurring costs without using.
Okay, thanks.
So we did do that.
Okay,
Again, keeping in mind that this was a benefit for our residents, and as it was turning out, it was not, that wasn't the greatest use. But we still have the ability to use it. Please don't mistake that. If there's a building ordinance or woodlands ordinance violation, something of that nature out there, the administrative court is exactly where it will end up. So, any other comments? Okay, moving forward, just thought I'd give you a little bit of an update. Our fire alarm is back in working order, I think. So that's one step forward. We will be signing a contract with Lakeland HVAC Automation to replace the thermostats and the controller for the HVAC system. The attorney finished his review and we have forwarded that on to the provider. And so far, so good on everything else. I'm knocking wood because one never knows. So that's all I have to add today. And I see our Director of Community Services has joined us. So Russ, do you have anything to add there?
No, the biggest thing I just came on for, sorry I was late for my meeting. I will be here to go through the fee schedule. And if there's any other questions, I'll answer those. Then I'm going to beg out. I just found out we have a crisis going on here, so I gotta go back out. So.
Okay, well, thank you for joining for the short time.
No problem.
Take care.
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Visitors wishing to address the board. We did have some comments coming in, written comments coming in, and Chief, do you have those available?
I do.
Okay, he'll read those for us, and then I'll ask if there are other people in the area that have something that is other than what is on the agenda.
So the first email is from June Melber, 1100 Wigham Road, and the subject is approval of gas station. To whom it may concern, hopefully the village trustees, or our village trustees. I am vigorously opposed to the building of a gas station on the corner of Deerfield and Milwaukee. This makes the village appear to be governed and populated by many ignorant, self-serving buffoons in light of the scientific data on climate change and the push for clean, renewable sources of energy. It is an oxymoron to say we value nature and protecting the environment, and because that we are going to build another gas station. The second email that we have is from Jan Douglas of Duffy Lane, and the subject is Thornton's permit. I am totally opposed to the idea of yet another gas station in this area. What is the purpose? To put the one on Saunders and Deerfield out of business. Most people I know buy gas at either Costco or Woodman's. Is there not a more environmentally responsible, attractive 21st century use for the lot? Please don't do it! Exclamation point.
Okay, I don't believe we've gotten any other emails since.
No.
Okay. Are there visitors wishing to address the board on topics other than those on the agenda?
Were there any emails that came in?
Those were the only two that we saw.
Okay.
Okay. Moving forward to new business. First item on that, on the agenda there is ordinance approving the fee schedule for fiscal year 2022. Attorney Huvard, if I could ask you to lead us through that, please.
Well, Russ is here too. So
Oh, right.
basically, I prepared an ordinance that said the new fee schedule is hereby adopted. I think Russ is the one who took charge of updating the fee schedule.
Well, I
That's,
didn't know if he'd left already.
No, I
Sorry.
haven't left yet. I said I was gonna wait for this. Basically, everybody should have got the newer one. We sent out one last week that was, for some reason, the computer really made a mess out of it, but the one that came out this afternoon is correct. And everything is highlighted in yellow. There's no real big changes. We added the gaming. The biggest stuff is we added the tobacco store, the video gaming, the terminal operators, raffle tickets, the licenses for the liquor license for the terminal operator, convenience store limited, convenience store full licensed. And I think we did, let's see, I'll go to the back here, and we added zoning application. We upped it by $50. The cost of buying the signs for the last couple of zoning variances has gone up. I'm not even sure this is going to cover it because Bruce, I haven't talked to you. I was going to see if your newspaper, when you put the newspaper ads in, because I know most of this money is supposed to pay for the newspaper ads and the signage. But I figured the $500 will at least get us back to close to even again. And then the registration fee for the properties, we went from, I forget what it was. It was 50 to 75. I have to say, I didn't know till this year all the work that Vivian goes through, all the hours she spends keeping track of this stuff and sending out mailings after mailings. It's just unbelievable at the postage of the mailings that she sends out to get people to register and to do things. I mean, we've sent out 2, 3, 4 notices to a lot of these people. So hopefully we'll break even on that. So that's it. I mean, there's really nothing here of any real thing except getting all the stuff we haven't had and that we've passed here with the newer business licenses and the liquor licenses. We have all that now in the fee schedule, so it's all set to go. Oh, and I did add under new construction, we were questioning the value of construction because some of the stuff was we listened to the builders and stuff. I went through and did a synopsis of stuff for the last year, the new homes that were built, actually about a year and a half, because we didn't do too many last year. And it averaged out to between $135 and $160. So I picked 150 as a nice round number. I guess it depends mostly upon upgrades. People here building, they don't buy Formica countertops and plastic laminate tiles and stuff. I mean, they upgrade your stuff. So I think it's a fair figure. And most of the stuff that we've added it to with the last 3 homes that we've done, they've all come in right around $1 million as for the tax purposes. So that's about it.
Trustee Dickon?
I have a question regarding the registration of rental properties. First question is that it says the registration fee is $75. The old website says that the registration fee is $30. So that's certainly something that we need to update internally. And then I also was wondering, would there be different fees for short-term rentals like the Airbnb or the VRBO? would there be more things that maybe the police department would need to be involved in to attending to those properties for maybe noise violations or anything related to that? You know, if you've got a tenant switching out every other weekend, you know, should there be?
We really haven't seen that, to be honest with you, but I don't know if the chief's had problems or he's kept track of problems with rental properties or stuff like that. Chief, do you know of anything that you've
Well,
seen that's unusual?
typically when we respond to a call, we don't know if it's a rental property or not.
Right.
I know we've had a couple of Airbnbs in town, and I think a couple of years ago, we might have been to a loud party that we know was an Airbnb, but that was basically a one-off. I'm not aware of any other.
I'm not aware of anything either. So I think for right now, it's a fair thing, and maybe we'll just keep track of it and see if something comes up in the future.
Trustee Hollander, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was really a response to Lilia. The purpose of the fee was just to get a registration list, was to know who was renting in the village and who wasn't. It wasn't meant really to provide funding for any type of service or anything. It was just to know
Right.
what's being rented and what isn't. And
There you
that was
go.
the purpose. So it was a de minimis fee.
Sure, no, I understand. It's just we rent out a lot of properties when we travel, and just in speaking with property owners, I know that they often actually have to pay a fee for every new tenant when they rent out their property. So wasn't sure if we had something like that going on at the village.
I'll bet you those are larger communities or communities who are more attuned.
Like Lake Tahoe skiing, yeah.
Yeah,
Right. Where they have the vacationers going and.
Yeah, a larger turnover, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Administration is not our strong suit.
I think we're just trying to be fair with what we have here. And like I said, if something else comes up or we're aware of, something happens that's different than this, we'll bring it up. But, all the years we've been doing it, I got to be honest, when I retired back in 2011, we weren't even doing it back then. We did not register rentals at that time. So this was something new that Rob had must have put into operation. So it's my first experience with it here.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the fee schedule? May I have a motion for approval of the ordinance adopting?
We need a motion to waive first reading because it's an ordinance.
I'll move to waive first reading.
Thank you.
I'll
Is there
second.
a second? So close. So I almost had it. All right. Forget the discussion. Roll call.
Trustee Clayton,
We're waiving first reading and I'll say aye.
Yes.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman, absent, trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
I
Okay,
move for second reading and adoption.
thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second,
Any further discussion or comment? Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Eastman, absent, trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Ordinance 010122.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the ordinance, no ordinance. Approval to accept the quote from Edema for the upgrade and reconfiguration of the existing live scan. Chief, would you like to speak to that?
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, a live scan is an inkless electronic system designed to capture an individual's fingerprint and other demographic information, and then to automatically transmit that information to the state police and ultimately the FBI. And then, so if we arrest somebody, the record, it becomes a record automatically rather than inking people like we did in the old days and mailing that in. And oftentimes the prints were rejected because it's hard to ink people. sometimes where the live scan doesn't let you submit something until the print is readable. So that's been technology for years now in police work. And we did purchase a live scan 10 years ago at that time for $20,918, which 75% of it at that time, which was great, I was able to get covered by a justice grant. There aren't any grants available right now, and I've been looking for the last couple of years because I knew our live scan was coming to end of life, and there just hasn't been anything. To purchase a brand new live scan would likely cost at least $23,000, at least with IDEMIA. That's what they would charge us for a new one. But in talking to them, ours is no longer supported, but they could upgrade it and it would work fine, just like a new one, in speaking to the text there. And so they would do that for us for $15,502. So I'm asking the board to approve the upgrade and reconfiguration of our existing live scan system for the cost of $15,502. Oh, and by the way, this was, I did put this in the budget proposal that I submitted under capital expenses.
Any questions? Any comments? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon.
Aye.
Trustee Eastman absent, trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
next item, approval of the engagement of SB Friedman to prepare TIF report and redevelopment plan for the 37-acre landfill parcel. Attorney Hubart, can you please lead us through this?
Sure. SB Friedman is a consulting company that specializes particularly in TIF and redevelopment projects. It is one of the most well-known organizations in our area that does these kind of reports and studies. And they have worked with the village. They did the redevelopment analysis, the TIF studies on both of our existing TIF projects. So we asked them to prepare this proposal, which is quite similar to what they've used in the past with our other TIF districts. They evaluate the property in the light of the statutory criteria for the designation of a TIF district. They have to look at all the possible criteria, see if they apply. They also, as part of the plan, describe the type of improvements that would go there. They put together the goals of the redevelopment area, what we hope to accomplish in terms of diversification and economics and employment gains and things like that. These are all of the objectives of the TIF statute. And so the redevelopment plan tries to plug into that and say what we're trying to achieve if we were to designate this as a TIF area, provides a budget and an analysis of potential increment and proceeds that we would use in the area and for what purposes. So it's an all-encompassing engagement, not only to determine the eligibility, but to come up with what they call the plan itself. Maybe I would liken it to a mini, it's not a comprehensive plan for the village, but it's a plan for the redevelopment project area. So it's both an economic and a land use engagement. And we need this. We can't really act on forming a TIF until we've determined, the board has to make a determination that the area is eligible, and this is the accepted way of doing it.
Is there any discussion? Trustee Haber, please.
Is this expense something that we can recapture from the developer ultimately?
Yes, and or the TIF increment itself. It's an eligible expense. Also, I should point out that they broke their proposal into 3 phases, and they did this before on the earlier TIF projects. We didn't need their services on the 3rd phase. We were able to take care internally of putting together the notices and conducting the joint review board meetings and things like that. So I really expect to use them mostly for the first two parts of their proposal.
So like 18,000 versus 25,900.
Right.
Trustee Clayton, did you have a comment?
A question. If it's possible to do so, what is the advantage of establishing TIF number 3 versus expanding TIF number 1? I would think that the increment going into TIF number 1 could be useful to the village because the village has advanced money into TIF number 1, as I recall.
Well, currently, you can, when you form a TIF that's adjacent to another TIF, when they're contiguous, you can transfer increment from one TIF across the boundary to the next. So this TIF would be adjoining TIF number 1. Any increment in this TIF could go into TIF number 1 to solve that problem. I should mention that there are some bills that are being proposed right now in Springfield that would change the TIF law. This always happens every year. We never know quite what the TIF law will be until we see what further changes are proposed. Partly it's because there are a lot of different taxing districts that are affected by this. And in our case, it's mostly a win-win for everyone because the development doesn't add housing, residents, school children, or anything like that. It basically, takes a landfill parcel and creates a taxable parcel where there isn't one. So it's from that standpoint, but generally speaking, there are some tensions in the TIF community. And one of the proposals I was just reading about earlier today would shorten the life of a TIF or make it so that you couldn't take property that's in an existing TIF, take it out and put it into a new TIF. One of the things this proposal contemplated was taking property that's in TIF 1 and putting it into the new TIF. We may not be able to do that if this proposal goes through in Springfield. But in any event, when you look at the proposed site plan, 95% of the improvements and the likely increment is going to be generated from the 29 acres that's newly coming into the village. So I think we'll be okay, no matter how the legislation shapes out. Unless they shorten the duration a great deal, that could be a factor. But the law is the law. We'll have to follow the law.
Any further discussion? Any other questions for Attorney Huvard? May I have a motion, please, for the approval of the engagement of SB Friedman?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Decken,
Aye.
trustee Eastman, absent, trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to old business. And while it's old business, it's going to be brand new for a lot of people, and it's brand new for us, but it is the website. And I've asked trustee Decken to please give us an introduction. And I think she's going to need some screen sharing so that she can better explain that. Am I correct in that? Trustee Decken, please take us through.
Absolutely. Yes, I do need some screen sharing. So just give me a moment to pull up the right tab. I'll get up. Can you see my screen?
Daphne, do you have it turned on? Okay.
Yeah, I have one participant can share at a time.
I can't do it because I'm not
There
the
it goes.
host.
There you go.
There we go.
Um,
Okay, go.
What do you see on your screen?
Village FOIA request.
Okay, perfect. Let's go to the homepage. Apologies, I have 3 screens and many tabs open, so I just wanted to make sure I'm showing you the right one. Okay, so a lot of updates have been made over the course probably of the last 2 weeks, and thank you everyone for your continued comments and feedback and photos and suggestions. I'm implementing the critical ones as soon as I can, and the non-critical ones are kind of on that bucket list for us. But this is the website that we anticipate launching tomorrow, if all goes well. And I see no reason for anything not to go well, but just wanted to give you the overview of what is currently the final product. So on the homepage, you see a news section, you see a calendar section. The top navigation consists of a tab of an expandable tab called Government, Residents and Community, Trees and Woodlands Ecology. And then there's a search field over here along with Contact Us and a way to get home via either this link or by clicking on the logo. The bottom of the screen will show you frequently visited topics. So agendas and minutes, ordinances, how to pay bills and citations, as well as permits, forms, and applications. The first thing I wanted to demonstrate is the calendar. It's a pretty cool feature, actually. So if you click on this little plus, that it will expand and show you the 3 latest calendar items. And then if you click View Calendar, you could actually browse all the upcoming items that are on the calendar. So as an example, I wanted to demonstrate what you as a resident would be able to see if you were to click this calendar, click on the Board of Trustees meeting, which is taking place today. So I'm clicking on this Board of Trustees meeting, and we've got the preliminary agenda. We've got the Zoom link. And if I want to, I can actually add this to my calendar, and gives me an option to add it to my Outlook calendar or to add it to my Google Calendar. So if I click add it to my Google Calendar, it automatically launches my Google Calendar with all the details copied in. I'm not gonna add this to my calendar right now. So I'm just gonna back out of there right now and go back to the home page. Okay. The news area is also another new feature that is on the website. And as I said before, the top 3 latest news items is what you're going to see on the homepage. But if you click on View All News, you will see all the articles that Katie, myself, and the Chief of Police have been uploading onto the website. Some of these are longer articles, some of these are shorter little updates, but just to demonstrate one of them, here is a quick write-up about Sheila Hollander, selected as 2021 Citizen of the Year, with a photo of her accepting the award. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the news section. Once we get more news, those news could be categorized as press releases or public notices. So, if there's a public hearing, that type of a news item would be categorized as a public notice. So if at some point I want to see all of the public notices that took place, I would categorize my search by public notice and click apply. We currently don't have that much context, so I unfortunately can't demonstrate how that search works. Okay, going back to the home page, the agendas and minutes tab, we've gone back about 6 months to July of 2021 and uploaded agendas, minutes, and links to YouTube videos. So just to demonstrate any one of these Board of Trustee meetings, if I were to click View Details, this is the December 7th meeting. I've got a PDF of the agenda. I've got a PDF of approved minutes, and I've got a YouTube file, which will play if I press play.
Okay. All right, it's 7:30.
That wasn't live. That was Chris speaking on the YouTube video, and this is what a PDF of the agenda would look like if you were to pull it up from the site. Going back to the homepage. The ordinances tab, that links directly to the codifier, which has its own search. Pay bills and citation, that currently leads to the old page that we had where we could pay citations or the water bill. Unfortunately, there's really not a whole lot that we could do to modify what this page says, but hopefully that will change soon as we move forward with the contract of the new accounting system, which will allow for us to pay our bills electronically. So that's on the agenda later this year. And then permits and forms. A lot of the permits, forms, and applications have been converted to actual fillable forms, and I will demonstrate them. So the vacant building registration, for example, this is a form that one can fill online. They could upload their certificate of insurance or any additional documents as required, and then they could submit it. And then on our end at the Village Hall, the appropriate person will receive that information. There's some neat features that are available on the administrative side. So if at some point we wanted to run a consolidated report of everyone who has ever submitted this particular form or any other particular form, we could do that. So for record keeping, it's a neat feature that we could certainly take advantage of internally, just in terms of consolidating everything at a single source.
Lily, you want to log out so people aren't seeing the behind the scenes stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I'll log out.
So see what the resident, sees.
Yeah, it's very similar to what the resident sees, but I'll demo another form. So some forms have not been carried over to being submittable forms. So for example, the tree removal form still lives as a PDF that one has to fill out. And that's probably going to get revised in maybe a week or two. It's a more complicated form. It has a lot more fields, but at some point, the residents are going to be able to upload photos of the trees that are in question. If needed, they could even upload a brief video demonstrating, the area that's in question. And so some things will be automated, some processes will be automated, and hopefully it will help speed things up on the end of at the administrative front of the Village Hall. Let's go back to the homepage. Under government, it expands to subtabs for elected officials, committees, and commissions, the building department, public safety, municipal code, and the village FOIA requests. And if I hit on the main government tab, it will take me to a page that kind of breaks it up like this. Just as an example, we click on elected officials. It talks about how, the village mayor and other elected officials, what their roles are. It talks about the regular meetings that are held. The contact information for anyone who is tagged as an elected official is right on the right-hand bar. There's also other ways that one could search for a specific contact or multiple contacts that are tagged under specific, let's call it department. Residents and community. I wanted to give a special thank you to Michael Clayton because he has given me a number of beautiful photos to use for the website. For those who didn't know, Michael is a photographer as a hobbyist. So I really appreciate your support on that. But for residents and community, once you click on the main residents and community page, it gives an overview of just a very brief history of Riverwoods, some hyperlinks to places of recreation, the two school districts, the two high school districts rather that serve the village, as well as a link to public safety. For new residents, I've also set up a new page. As I mentioned to Chris today, we actually closed on the sale of our property today, and we're going to be using the folks who are moving in as hopefully guinea pigs to walk through some of these new forms and these new processes. They're young, they're used to relying on technology for getting their information. So I think it'd be interesting to get feedback from somebody who's who's moving into a village as unique as ours, and somebody who's going to be dealing with everything from the get-go. So The new resident registration form was designed to serve as a roadmap. And also for us to, to gather information, is this property on city water? Do we know the new residents' contact information or the former residents' contact information? Do emergency personnel need to be aware of a person with special needs or disability in your household? Would you like to sign up for Village News? They could sign up for emergency notifications for the Village of Riverwoods Police Department. And, as Chris and I were talking, we thought that it might be a good idea to actually create a similar roadmap for residents who are leaving the village. So, turn off your water services, turn off your utilities and other services. So that's, again, one of those things that are on that bucket list. And so, if you think of things that would be nice to have or must haves, please forward those to me. Okay. So from the residents and community, you could either use this menu to get to the building department or to trees and woodlands. Because trees and woodlands are a very important area. It's accessible through multiple areas of the website. Quick overview of the building department. Talks about content related to projects that require a permit. Links to permits and applications, the building code, as well as the fee schedule and the utility, the Julie utility location service, as well as engineering. When we click on engineering, there's a lot of content over there, all consolidated. There's maps and engineering standards and engineering detail. And then trees and woodlands ecology. This is one of the photos that was submitted by Michael Clayton. A lot of links over here, pretty much linking to the ordinance, linking to information about the cost share program. And just as good housekeeping, we feel that, if we're at any time talking about an ordinance, it's best to link out to the actual ordinance rather than quote it, because if the ordinance changes, we don't have to worry about keeping track of keeping the website current. The link needs to work and the codifier needs to be accurate. This page talks about the cost share programs that are available to residents. Another photo by Michael Clayton. And then we've got a trees and woodlands removal consultation workflow chart. So this again is a roadmap of what happens or what do you do if you've got to remove a tree or want to remove woodlands. We've got a certified contractors list that residents could contact. Let's see what else. Oh, let me demo the search. So finally, the search works, and we could search for, let's use the word map. And the website's going to pull up pages that reference maps. So there's a lot of maps under engineering. That's why this page is on the top of the search results. Also, I have personally spent a lot of time modifying and editing these pages, which is why the frequency of my use has brought this search result up to the top. So once we get real visitors, the most relevant results will be coming up at the top. Another quick search example would be tree removal. And the search is going to bring up everything where we mentioned tree removal. So from the consultation flow chart to the permit application for removing trees, an area on trees and wood, and so on. And for contact us, a resident could either fill out a form over here, or they could click on the staff directory and search by departments. So I'm searching for somebody in the police department, and these are the folks who have been added to the police department's directory. And I think that's about it. This is what we're going live with tomorrow. If all goes well, fingers crossed. Any feedback, comments? I always welcome them. And I've tried approaching the design and development of this website as both a resident and somebody who has experience building databases. So I'm trying to keep an open mind for suggestions, and I ask of all of you to do the same, because I will ask a lot of questions and I'll try to poke holes in multiple processes. I know some things at the village have been done a certain way for many, many years. So, is there room for change? Is there room for improvement? Is there room to rely on technology to simplify or streamline some processes? In some cases, yes, in other cases, no. So it's a work in progress, and it will always be a work in progress. It's just like building a house. Just when you think you're finished putting in a new kitchen, you decide to, move a vanity. So, and I think that's it.
That's a lot. If you stop sharing for just a moment, I'll ask the trustees if they have any comments, and we can all see each other again to talk.
Sorry, I stopped sharing.
Okay. Trustee Hollander.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
Really nicely done.
Second,
Yeah, really, really great job. Really excellent job.
Yeah, really outstanding. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
I also wanted to mention that Bruce Dano had spent endless hours. And if Bruce ever decides to retire, I am sure that Municode will gladly recruit him.
Well, they can't have him. Yeah, just amazing, absolutely amazing. And it will evolve. And you've given us a structure to evolve in. And I think that is always important. That is always important.
Thank you.
So any other questions? Congratulatory remarks are welcome.
I think it's great. I love it.
Isn't it outstanding? Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Of course. Glad to be here.
Okay, well, we do have to move along. So we have 2 items under old business. These are second readings and adoptions of ordinances regarding the automobile service station convenience store as allowed, and amending provisions of the special use. So if I could ask Attorney Hubbard to lead us through those 2.
We've had the ordinances on the agenda for a while. We were working out some details with the final sign package. I think the trustees saw this, something I handed out before the last meeting. And there were some other details on the site plan. The one change is the one that I gave you a couple of pictures to look at in the package. It's on is that page 52 of the package? I think so. Just to reiterate that the text amendment would authorize a service station and a convenience store as something that can be authorized in a mixed-use plan development. It was something we used to authorize. We took it out. The text amendment would restore it as a potentially authorized use that goes through the special use process. The entire site with CubeSmart and this particular lot together form a mixed-use plan development. And so the text amendment allows this to be, to go through a special use process to be approved. And then the second ordinance is the actual special use then, which keeping with all of our ordinances that follow this pattern, list all of the project documents that define the development on this particular lot. So each of the lots in this tract, the CubeSmart lot and the Thornton's lot, each have their own respective set of project documents. We tried to blend it all in together in the special use ordinance. So that's general context of the two ordinances. The drawing on the page that I've mentioned in the pack on page 52, Thornton's wanted to try and reduce some of the amount of block retaining wall that is visible. They wanted to reduce some of the cost that are associated with that, and also the amount of underground vaulting of stormwater, because when they did the final calculations, it was going to involve storing more water in vaults underground. So their decision was to go from 10 pumps under the canopy to 8 pumps. And the result, if you look on, I think, page 53, then it brings back the retaining wall away from Deerfield Road, creates a larger area for landscaping and detention, because the grading is not as extreme. Instead of a steeper drop off at a higher retaining wall, the grading is less. And that change along, by having only 8 pumps, then they provide a little more room for cars to get around, and it solves some of their site plan issues. I posed a question to them whether they expected any change in the amount of the sales of gasoline by having 8 pumps instead of 8 pumps instead of 10 pumps, and they said no. I don't know if that just means that people would see that it's at the busiest hours, they may have to wait a little bit more because there's 8 pumps instead of 10 pumps. Andy Goodman is here tonight. I think someone from Thornton's is here as well. So you could ask that question, but Thornton's did respond to me that they did not anticipate a drop in sales or any need to revise their projections. So if you scroll back to almost the last page in the packet, this is page 63 and 64 in the packet, you'll see the various plans that have later revision dates, which is what we've substituted from what we had about a month ago. The last thing I'd like to say is that there is a reciprocal easement agreement that we drafted, the village drafted and recorded against all of the properties in this area, the CubeSmart lot, the Thornton's lot, and the outlot that the village controls. The purpose of that was to provide an orderly means of ingress and egress and access through the shared access roads within the development. And one of the other objectives that we had was to let future buyers know that the village might take the outlot, which the village controls, and alter it and make it so that it could serve the needs of development on the 37 acres. I got a request in a draft of the document to take that provision out, and I objected to that, and Thornton's got back to me, Andy Goodman got back to me and said, okay, we don't really mean that, we'll take it out. So I just want to make it clear to the board that that the current requirement that we have is for the village to approve any amendment to the reciprocal easement agreement. I think I just want to have Andy confirm for the record here tonight, because as you can see, we have a petition for annexation. We have no idea what the ultimate plan for that is, but I don't have any desire to have the village's maneuverability on this subject limited by the reciprocal easement agreement. We made it very clear from the very beginning that we control that outlot and we could modify it as we saw fit. So Andy, I just give you an opportunity to tell the board that that's not a problem before we ask them to vote on it.
That's confirmed. It's not a problem, and we are fine with the access. And we're excited to be here tonight with this opportunity. Thank you, everybody. Although I must say it is a tough act to follow Lilia, because she does a wonderful job. We'll do our best to hold our own.
That's all I have. So we have these two ordinances.
Trustee Haber.
So if you look at the two plans, the original and then the modified plan, there are a few other very subtle differences besides just the reduction from the 10 stalls 10 to 8 and the additional setback. And I just am curious if there's any reason to discuss those additional ones. The things that I saw were like, for instance, on the revised plan now, it says fuel tank location with mountable curb. The other one didn't say a mountable curb. I'm not sure exactly what that means. There was 20 parking spaces in the first plan. There's now 19 in the second. The location of the trash bin has been moved a little bit further into the proposed stormwater detention area. And that's not an exhaustive list. That's just the things that popped out to me. And I'm just wondering if there's any reason to have any discussion on any of those items.
Those are good observations, and I'm sorry I didn't bring those to your attention. There's a EV charging station that is shown, not in what I reproduced here, but in the plan that's referenced in the index list that was moved to the north side of the building. They didn't have room for it before, but they've shown it in the revised plan. And they did consolidate where the propane tanks are to the south side of the building. They did move the trash. Pat Glenn looked at this with me as well. Pat, if you're around, if there was anything else, I don't know where the mountable curb was. I don't think I noticed that either.
The mountable curb is shown on the previous plan and just not called out. So they just added a call out for that curb on the second plan or the revised plan.
I think those were the differences, Mike. I think you hit on them very quickly, but succinctly. But Pat, was there anything else that we came up with?
No, that was the outdoor sales moved to the south side of the building and the propane. And then, like you said, the trash enclosure moved into the, yes, Trustee Haber, you hit on all the actual changes to the plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do the trustees have any other questions or comments? At this point, I could ask for questions or comments from the other people in attendance. Not seeing anybody either unmute themselves, on opening their video. So seeing none, then I will ask for a motion for second reading and adoption of the ordinance amending provisions of Article B of Chapter 5 of the Riverwood zoning ordinance, adding automobile service station and convenience store as allowed uses in a mixed-use plan development.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman absent, trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Ordinance 010222.
Lily, I just wonder, are we making a decision to go month, date, year, but all the other ones we've gone 22, then the month 220102.
Are we,
That's my
Are we-
can
bad.
we talk about naming conventions? And
We're starting just, so that we'll start with the year first, 22, then 01 the month, then it would be 02.
Thank you.
Okay,
Mhm.
just wanted to make sure we hadn't changed them.
We might. Moving on to the second.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
We look forward to coming here. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
thank you. Let's move on to the next ordinance amending provisions of the special use previously granted in ordinance 160202 to authorize an automobile service station and convenience store for lot 1. This is up for second reading and adoption.
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
service? Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? Is there any further discussion from any members of the community? Hearing none and seeing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman absent, trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Ordinance 220103.
Welcome, Andy.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity and we're excited to get the shovel in the ground this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. There is no reason to go into executive session tonight. Are there any comments from the board? Anything we might have missed? Trustee Jamerson?
I just wanted to let all the board members know that the Poached Egg, which is now open, is having a grand ribbon cutting event on the 25th of the month, which is next Tuesday at 11:30. They have graciously invited all the trustees to the ribbon cutting and a complimentary luncheon afterwards. And the mayor is going to speak. She may not realize that. I sent you a notice on that. You didn't read your email today.
I'm so good at it too.
I know. Well, anyway, so the mayor's going to say a few words, according to Vicky Street from the chamber. So, so anyways, everybody's invited, 11:30, probably be there a few minutes early. To echo the mayor's comment, I don't know if anybody's been by there, but the parking lot has been jammed ever since they opened. Jammed. So, which is great. So he brought his following from Deerfield with him. He was the Rhapsody Cafe by the train tracks there by Walgreens, and we're really, really happy to have him in town.
Yes, we are. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'm not real sure how I feel about the complimentary lunch, but you know.
I'm just telling you, they said they could, they're gonna,
That's
wasn't just- I don't think it's-
offer.
I don't think it's just for us. I think it's for whoever's at the ribbon cutting. So anyways.
Very kind offer.
Yeah.
So I think maybe RSVP, let us know if you're going to be there. It would be good for us to know. Is there anything else? Well, get in there and use the website and make sure we patronize Poached Egg. So having the next date and time for our meeting is February 1st, 7:30. It will be electronic and I can't see when we're going to stop electronic. So I'm sort of glad of that. We're getting used to it. One of us is learning how to ask for ordinances, first reading and so forth. So do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Moved.
Second. Roll call.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman absent, trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Good to see you. Welcome, Andy. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Aye.